it's a very interesting season for them because they they started as sort of these precocious little overachievers in their first season, and then the second season was sort of split. They started disappointing and then ended up as strong as anyone in MLS in the second half of the season, and then really looked out of their league almost in the postseason against Los Angeles, who eliminated them. It kind of reminds them of how far they have to go. They haven't made dramatic personnel changes, but they're still one of the younger teams in the league, so they don't necessarily think that they have to. I get the impression that Sigi Schmid is willing to take them along slowly. He seems much more interested in winning MLS Cup, meaning being hot at the end of the year, than necessarily going for Supporters Shield, which means achieving points all through the year. The new guys, I think, to really keep an eye on will particularly be Erik Friberg, who they brought in from Sweden. He's a midfielder who I didn't know much about, but the little bit that we got to look at them in the Cascadia Cup games against Portland and Vancouver, he just seems to be a startlingly good passer, about as good as, as good as they've had on this team so far. I think that could be really useful. And then for a little bit further down the line, they brought in Josh Ford, a pure rookie who came in the supplemental draft. And he's starting as the number 3 goalkeeper, which is sort of a useless position for the most part, like the number 3 quarterback. But by this time next year, it will not be useless at all. Of course, this is Casey Keller's final year, so kind of the jockeying for position behind them with Terry Boss, with this guy, or with kind of an unknown behind door number 3. The goalkeeper position is going to be fascinating to watch, both for this season, particularly with Keller at his current age. Certainly the reserve could be all that much more important, and then just in terms of setting the stage for an extraordinarily important position next year, that's going to be a fascinating one to watch. The guys who aren't new in body, but they hope will be new in production, are the 2 designated players that they brought in last season, both wild underachievers in their first seasons. That would be Blaise Couffoe, who has given no indication that he's awake, much less better this season. The generous read on him so far is that he's a veteran who's holding it for the regular season, and that could be the case. He certainly has talent. They built a statue for him at his previous club, and so that indicates that if he wants to give it, he probably still can. The other would be Alvaro Fernandez, the other designated player who came in at midseason last year. He had a very busy year, birth of a child, coming from a new club, coming from World Cup, very, very tired. He would have had every reason to have been a little physically worn, but now he's come in, worked during the preseason with his club, and if he is going to be a designated player who justifies that term, this is the year we need to see that. We got to hear from Coach Sigi Schmid. They asked him about the Seattle Galaxy LA rivalry, and he points out it really hasn't been much of one, that they were absolutely dominated last season by the Galaxy, and he, of course, hopes to change that this year. The Galaxy still projects as probably the single most talented and glamorous team in the league, and certainly is the team to beat in the West. Seattle should, by all rights, have a very strong home pitch advantage, so getting off to a good start is very important. They've certainly done that so far. This is their 3rd straight season, all of their existence. They've begun the season as the first kick team. The league loves coming in and showing those fans and the crowd and the color of a game at Qwest Field. And the Sounders also have taken care of business on the pitch. They've won and won soundly each of their first 2 years. Tomorrow will probably be their toughest challenge. And me and 36,000 fans are going to be very interested to see what plays out.